Welcome, dear learners. I welcome you in this new topic in which we'll be talking about waste management. So, when we talk about waste, we'll be talking about solid waste, e-waste, and plastic pollution. So, first, let's have an overview of this lecture. I'll be defining the key concept such as waste management, what is solid waste, e-waste, and plastic pollution. I'll be explaining the type, sources, and the impacts of different kinds of waste on environment and human health. And lastly, you'll be also able to understand and demonstrate appropriate waste management practices like segregation, recycling, and reuse in daily life. So let's get started. What is waste management? Waste, we have to understand there are a lot of synonymous words regarding waste. Rubbish, trash, refuse, garbage, junk, litter, whatever it is always unwanted and useless material that is being discarded of, right? So waste management is talking about how we are collecting it, how we are transporting it, how what processing is taking place of disposal, managing and monitoring of waste, right? So, of course, we have the Municipal Solid Waste Management Handling Rules 2000, which provides for safe disposal of municipal waste and prevent contamination of water, soil, land, air, and etc. So, for this, we have a combined efforts from the municipal authorities, from the district administration. We have the State Pollution Control Board and the state government as well. So what are the different methods of waste management? So the first method is the recycling. And you see the symbol, very common, we have seen in the gadgets or the devices that we use. This is known as recycling, which includes paper, plastic, metals, and glasses. So there is it reduces the need for new raw materials and it saves energies and resources as well. Then we have composting, which is organic waste such as food scraps and yard waste, which can be composted to create a nutrient-rich, soil additive. We add to the soil and it increases the fertility. And of course, composting is a natural process that reduces landfill waste and supports the agriculture process as well. Then landfills are basically engineering sites which are designed to safely store the waste. So especially the non-recyclable waste. So the modern landfills incorporates technology to minimize environmental impact, right? Because the waste landfills creates methane gas, and methane gas, it captures the methane gas, and this methane gas is if you remember my last lecture, I talked about greenhouse gases. So it's the third major contributor to global warming. Then waste to energy, how the waste to energy technology, they convert waste into different form of energy in the form through the process like incineration, gasification, and pyrolysis. Then we have hazardous waste management. So in the hazardous waste management, it requires special handling and disposal to prevent contamination and harm. So if you look at the waste management hierarchy, it is in the form of inverted pyramid. So the important part that you see, the more highlighted part is the green part, that is prevent, and the least is the dispose, the apex, the point, the last tier is the dispose. So if you look at the waste hierarchy stepwise, of course we'll be asking different questions. For example, in preventing, we'll be asking, can waste be provided by not using the material in the first place? So you'll start from the preventing, then reducing, then reusing it, then recycling it, whether what material can be recycled either in whole or in part, what material can be recovered from the waste. And if everything fails, then the material that cannot be reused, recycled or recovered, they're ultimately disposed of. So that is the ultimate. That should be the least action of ours. The main thing is preventing and the least should be disposing. Now, color code for waste management. You're all familiar with dustbins with different colors. So why did we give different colors to the dustbin? It's not for the municipal workers, like to know about the colors and to use it or to dispose it of. No. It is for us, for me and you, to understand how we are going to throw our waste. And we are going to start the segregation of waste right at the grassroots level, right from our homes, right from our offices, right from any other institutions. So definitely the color code determines the kind of waste that is to be thrown. So in the green, we throw biodegradable organic waste. Blue, we are throwing dry waste. Red, we have the hazardous and biochemical waste. Yellow contains sanitary and medical waste. Black or gray dustbins, they're not those waste which are not suitable for recycling. So once you know the color code, you can throw the waste accordingly. And it's a very important, you can say, life skill practice that we have to incorporate in our lives, and then only we will be able to manage the waste. Now coming to solid waste. Now solid waste, anything that is solid, metal, glass, e-waste or hazardous waste things, that are no longer in use becomes our solid waste. So the solid waste are coming from different sources. They're coming from municipal solid waste, from industrial waste, from even agricultural refuse, the crops that are being cut, the residue matter, that also becomes the agricultural refuse, the medical refuse, or the e-refuse, the electronic refuse, the computers, the telephones, the televisions. And let's not forget, the construction site also produces large amount of solid waste. So how do you manage it? How that huge amount of solid waste that is coming? So we have one way, that is the landfill, how we dump it in the landfill and cover it with the soil, right? Then we have recycling and reuse. That's another way, how the materials are recycled, like glass, plastics, and so on. Then we have composting, waste which is decomposed naturally to form a compost, and which of course can be added to the soil enrichment and increases the fertility of the soil. Incineration, meaning burning of waste at very high temperature, and that actually helps to reduce the volume. Then we have mechanical and biological treatment, MBD. The biological phase is, where the anaerobic bacteria is used to convert the organic material into what we call as the biogas, which can produce renewable energy. Then effect of poor solid waste management, that we are not able to manage the solid waste, what will happen? Of course, there will be soil and water contamination, air pollution will take place, land pollution, health hazards will be there. It becomes a breeding ground for bacteria, and you can imagine the microorganisms, how it will affect us. And what about the aesthetic beauty? What about the economic impact? All that will be affected. So much so that the pile of waste, if it is not being cleaned up in any residential area, it also lowers the property value and impacts tourism. Then, of course, there is a framework that has been framed to control the solid waste in the form of Solid Waste Management Rule 2024. So the key, you can say, the provisions of this particular rules is that we have to strengthen the segregation at the source, expand recycling system, and reduce burdens on the landfills. So for that, we have to improved segregation norms right from the households, institution, and commercial establishments. Digital waste tracking system, how the GPS and app based are introduced to track the movement of waste from collection to the disposal. Then increased enforcement of user fees and penalties also. The urban local bodies have to implement a uniform user charge and impose fines as well. Circular economy and recycling targets. So basically, it's like, how it represents a transformative shift from traditional wasteful take, make, or you can say dispose model to a regenerative system where products and materials are kept in circulation for as long as possible. So that is circular economy and recycling targets. For that, you have urban local bodies and bulk waste generators to reduce dependency on the new virgin materials as well. Then this is very interesting. Extended producer responsibility. So the producer of the packaging material, sanitary waste, and other high volume consumer goods, they must establish verified collection and recycling system. And ban on unprocessed waste to landfill is also one of the important provisions. Then climate responsive waste processing is a sustainable framework which is designed to cut greenhouse gases emissions and promote resource circulation as well. We want to reduce the production of methane, which is released into the atmosphere, right? But it also encourages composting or biomethanation or RDF, refuse derived fuel production, and low emission technologies, which helps to reduce methane and carbon emissions. Then we have integration of informed waste sector as well. And ultimately, we also have to strengthen the rural waste management. The Gram Panchayat has to adopt decentralized waste handling system and methods. Now coming to the part of e-waste. E means electronic waste. And you know, our life cannot imagine our life without electronics. So mobile phones, laptops, IT, cables, solar panels, anything, any electronic thing that we use in our daily life, which is ultimately being dumped, becomes a part of e-waste. And India is the third largest e-waste generator. So you can imagine the e-waste contains some valuable materials as well, like gold, copper, aluminium. We want to also extract them, and plus we also want to make it both economically attractive and environmentally less dangerous, the whole process. Now, what are the sources of e-waste? So the main sources of e-waste are consumer electronics, the office equipments, the medical equipments. If you go to the military or government supplies, the surplus equipments, even the obsolete technology that we reject so nonchalantly. So all that becomes a part of e-waste. So method of e-waste disposal is through landfills. How this is the most common used method of disposing any kind of waste, right? Then comes incineration, when things are being burnt at a very high temperature, so it reduces the volume and it helps to extract some of the metals that are present in it. Acid bath, which is of course, as the name suggests, it is when the e-waste is soaked into the acid of sulfuric acid, hydrochloric or nitric acid. It removes the metal from the e-waste. It's also very dangerous to do all this kind of extraction. Then there's mechanical recycling also, how precious metal like copper, lead are separated from e-waste through printed circuit board recycling machines without harming the environment. Now you see in this table how the metals that the hazards from the e-waste substance, what are the different metals that are present and what kind of danger they impose. All is being listed. Take a pause, look at the table and you can understand. And most of the thing that you will find, a very common phenomena that will be extracted from the table would be that it is causing harm to our lungs, it's causing cancer, it is causing asthma and bronchitis, and it's affecting our digestive system as well as the respiratory system. Now coming to, is there a rule? Yes, there is e-waste management rules 2022, which also have different provisions. For example, extended producer responsibility, which gives the responsibility to the producers as well. E-waste recycling targets, it has set the targets. Gradual increase in the targets ensures better compliance over time. There is online EPR portal also, where the recyclers, the producers and the refurbishers all have to register on that portal. So what is it ensuring? Transparency, tracking and accountability of the e-waste. Then reduction of hazardous substances also. So basically it restricts the use of harmful material like lead, mercury, cadmium and so on. Even the role of all the stakeholders, just like I said, the producers who will fulfill EPR targets, the manufacturers who will manage waste generated during production, recyclers who will generate the EPR certificates, and refurbishers with them all must register and report activity, and they all have an important role to play. Otherwise, penalties will be imposed on producers who fail to meet the EPR targets. Then focus on the formal sector. And then there is no role of bulk consumer in EPR. That means the offices and the institutions, the bulk consumers, they're not directly responsible for EPR compliance, but they must ensure that the e-waste is handed over to authorized entities. Then promotion of circular economy, just like I said, how it aims to recover the valuable material like copper, gold and rare earth material as well. Now coming to the another type of pollution, which is very common, that is the plastic pollution. And plastic, are non-biodegradable, and how this is the statistic reveals a very alarming growth of how this plastic pollution is increasing at an unprecedented rate, because our lifestyle is becoming a disposable type of lifestyle. We are using plastics in all the things that we are using in our daily life and ultimately disposing it all. So the sources could be from the marine, the direct dumping of plastic debris into the ocean. Indirect could be the plastic debris washed out from the land and entering into the marine environment. Even on the land, in the terrestrial, we find the plastic bags from shopping, plastic toys, PET bottles, plastic disposable, poor disposal of plastic waste, failure to recycle plastic as well. So what are the causes of plastic pollution? So the causes would be the single-use plastic. That is highly dangerous because you're using one time, throwing it away, discarding it. So obviously this ends up in the landfill, or it ends up in the water bodies. Then comes improper waste disposal. How the inadequate waste management practices, including littering and improper disposal, leads to plastic waste entering rivers, oceans, and other ecosystems. Then there is another cause which is known as microplastic. Microplastic, when the larger plastic is degraded into tiny particles which are known as microplastic. And it occurs through natural process or anthropogenic activities like abrasion and breakdown. And of course, these microplastic then contaminate the soil and water, and then they pose threat to the human health and aquatic life and ecosystem. Then industrial discharge, whatever is being discharged in the form of plastics are released as pollutants. Inadequate recycling method, because we are not putting it into practice, properly recycling it. There's lack of awareness, limited recycling facilities, and as a result, plastic dump is increasing. Then over-reliance on plastic. Needless to say, our modern lifestyle heavily relies on the plastic products. Just imagine, from the time you wake up, the things that you're using to the time you sleep, anything that you use will be consistent of plastic. Then poor regulation and enforcement, all this contributes to the plastic pollution. So what could be the effect? The effect could be in the form, how, it is harming the marine life directly and indirectly. We just have seen that. It disrupts the food chain also, because it's staying longer in the atmosphere. So it will be affecting the animals who are consuming that plastic, and ultimately it will be also affect the larger predators and even human beings. Then habitats are being destroyed because of plastic waste. The coral reefs, the mangroves, it is reducing our biodiversity. Then food and water contamination. The microplastic, it's polluting the water bodies and entering the food chain and posing a great risk to humans as well. Then human health, when you can imagine consuming plastic or chemicals that are entering can cause hormonal or reproductive problems and different type of digestive problem as well. So environmental degradation, the plastic pollutes land, water, when it clogs the drains and it releases harmful greenhouse gases, or greenhouse gases increases at a very large rate, which ultimately leads to global warming. So what are the methods of disposal? So you have recycling, where the plastic waste is processed and it is converted to form new products. Yeah, this is the most eco-friendly and preferred method. Landfilling, which is the solution of all the waste disposable. Just dig a land, put everything, bury all the waste and cover it up. We feel that as long as we're not looking at the waste, it is buried under the ground, it is not harming us. But it has a very long-term environmental pollution, and it has an impact on our environment. Then incineration, burning plastic, it reduces volume and generates energy. And so but it also releases a lot of harmful gases. Pyrolysis, which is heating plastic in the absence of oxygen to produce fuel, oil and gas. Gasification is another method in which it converts plastic into synthetic gas, that is the syngas, using high temperature used for energy production. Then we have reuse, using plastic items multiple times instead of discarding them. It helps in waste reduction. Now coming to the plastic waste management rules. We have seen the different rules so far. So let's look at the plastic waste management, what it talks about. So in India, this rule was passed in 2016. It promotes reuse and recycling of plastic materials, and a ban on plastic bags below 50 microns. That's a very important thing. It has also introduces EPR. I've already talked about it, extended producer responsibility, making the producer, making the importers, and all the brand owners responsible for collecting and managing the waste generated from their products. Very good. Then the amendment was made in 2018 regarding how the urban local bodies, they also need to they have a very important role to play in the enforcement of this law. In 2021 amendment, it introduced phased ban on single-use plastic. 2024 amendment, it highlighted mandatory EPR compliance for producers and managed the recycle of their products. In addition to this, it increased the thickness requirements for plastic bags from 50 microns to 75 microns. Now, measures to curb plastic pollution. There, of course, the rule, I have already discussed that, but there are different measures also which are still helping us to curb plastic pollution. That is Plastic Management Rule 2016-2012, which helps in reducing the plastic waste generation. Other than that, India is also signatory to MARPOL, that is focusing on preventing marine pollution. Then there are different initiatives like India Plastic Challenge, Hackathon, which encourages innovative solutions and alternative to single-use plastic, awareness efforts such as Prakriti Mascot, which promotes sustainable lifestyle changes. And other key initiative, I'm sure you must have heard about Swachh Bharat Mission, the India Plastic Pact, Project Replan, Unplastic Collective, and even digital tools like EPR portal, dashboards, mobile apps. They all are helping to monitor, to manage plastic waste effectively. Now, to conclude, now it was a you can say a very comprehensive lecture on just waste, just rubbish, just garbage, just trash, just litter. But we have to say that waste management now is becoming essential for environmental sustainability and public health, especially when we find that in the face of growing population, in the face of growing e-waste and plastic waste and solid waste. Our population is increasing, so definitely consumption is also increasing. Consumption is increasing, waste is also being generated. Everything is connected. So practices such as waste segregation, recycling, reuse, and responsible disposal help in environmental degradation, help to reduce environmental degradation and conserve valuable resources. While there are effective policies and regulations which are providing a framework for what kind of action needs to be taken, with lasting change depends on public participation and responsible consumption. So embracing the principle of circular economy and sustainable living, we can significantly minimize waste and promote a clean, healthier planet. Ultimately, we can say that responsible waste management is a shared responsibility. So you and I, we both are responsible for controlling and for managing the waste that we ourselves are producing. And that is a step forward towards a more sustainable future. Okay. So I hope you had a very nice time listening to the lecture on waste and on garbage. So these are the references. You can go through them if you want to have a detailed view regarding solid waste management, its causes and its effects, and the different kind of rules and regulations that are being formed. Thank you all for your patience listening, and I'll be meeting you again with yet another environmental issue. And till then, take care of yourself and have a nice day. Bye-bye.